Okay, I wanted to break down this wipe, well, partial wipe by Tyler1 because it's actually a really interesting situation. There's like a cascade of like failures going on. There's a lot of different things intersecting and fucking up. Um, but before I like get really anal about like breaking down people's play or anything like that, I want to acknowledge like a lot of people. For a lot of people in this raid, this is literally the first raid they are in, and they are raiding with the tall order of you can't die. that Some of these people haven't played the game before. They started playing the game hardcore, and they're gonna make mistakes. People were very hard on both Tyler, and Tyler in this video was very hard on various people who I agree made a misplay, but yeah, I mean, the problem I have with this video is that Tyler1 acknowledges that he makes mistakes, but he also can't acknowledge that other people are capable of mistakes, right? He just goes to calling them roaches and shit. And I think there are some of them that are just kind of ruthlessly self-interested, maybe in their heart of hearts. But fundamentally, I think the problem was a lot of these so-called roaches simply failed a knowledge check, and as a result, they weren't armed with the information to make a correct call, and they also didn't listen to the raid leader because he had already demonstrated throughout the entire course of the raid that he didn't really understand fully what he was dealing with either. While I generally think you should follow the direction of the raid leader, even if you suspect that the call isn't particularly good, because a unified front is better than a a disorganized mess where everybody's just thinking for themselves. I can't really fault someone, a first-time player, stepping into this raid, not having the nerve to commit to what initially looks like a very sketchy situation. So, congratulations on getting to 60, guys, but you're going into raiding now, and raiding is a known quantity. So the first, fuck up happened before the raid even began. If I was getting into this raid, the first thing I'd be doing is getting fucking intimate with every single encounter in this raid, boss and trash. I want to know everything. Everything that they do, every ability that they have. I want to know how hard they hit. I want to know, the actual physical locations. I want to know everything, right? It's time to figure out what Shazra has on his toast in the morning. It's time to figure out what car does Golemag drive. I want to know everything. Okay, and the thing is, this isn't an unreasonable amount of homework to do, because there are only 3 abilities on these bosses. There's fuck all. There's really fuck all. There's 3 abilities each on every boss. We're gonna die to a combination of 3 abilities. He has a 4th, Armageddon, but he basically never gets it off because he dies too fast. And in this case, he indeed didn't get it off. So there's effectively 3 abilities on Barongeddon, and 3 abilities was enough to wipe you all because you just didn't know, you just didn't play around them. So yeah, it's time to get intimate with these bosses. I mean, 1 to 60, you can't really afford to get intimate because there's so much content, right? But now you're just dealing with the raids. The raids are a known quantity. The raids have been a known quantity for years. You should know what's going on. So I'm going to talk about these mages first. Actually, I'm going to break this down more generally. It's a hardcore attempt. You're well buffed out the arse. You got told to pop a GFPP before the pull. Okay? And we've got a mage here with 6.2k HP and a GFPP running. What is that? That's like 8k HP. That's almost 9k HP. 6.2k plus like a 2400 or something GFPP. Yeah, it's a lot of health. It's an insane amount of health. And this dungeon just wasn't tuned, assuming that insane level of HP. We've got abilities here. Living Bomb hits for 3.2k damage. So you got to be thinking, all right, I'm going through all the trash. I'm going through all the bosses. What is my lose condition on these bosses? What can I can't allow to happen? How, if I'm going to die to this guy, how's that going to happen? What's that going to look like? From the perspective of a mage, right? It's like I have to get hit by probably 2 living bombs, and then just have my priests like completely fail to dispel ignite mana, and then I might burn to death. I'm not going to get an Inferno unless the tank drags it pretty deep towards me. But that's very telegraphed, and I can back up and maintain range. So at most, I'd maybe take a tick of Inferno for 500 damage if I have eyes and I'm paying attention. So these sorts of... You got to be thinking about your lose conditions, right? So you should know in your head, I can tank a Living Bomb. I can tank a little bit of Inferno. I could maybe even tank 2 Living Bombs. Okay? And this is the thing about world buffs. World buffs are stupid because you kill the boss on such an aggressive timeline that many bosses don't even have the opportunity to properly kill you. You just tank everything from full HP and live. You kill things... It sucked to heal during this shit because mana didn't matter. You'd have players who would take literally 0 damage. It was all just like used up by a greater fire protection potion. And you basically don't get to play the game. It was ridiculous. It was, and this is why I don't like world buffs. I don't like getting world buffs, and I don't like the fact that I'm getting world buffs to completely trivialize content that's already pretty easy and tuned pretty accessibly, right? So you got to be thinking as arranged. My lose condition on this fight is so ridiculous, so outlandish. I can commit to, damaging this guy really hard, even if people completely fumble Living Bomb twice, maybe. I could get away with that. Actually, as a mage particularly, I can apply Fire Ward and get my HP up that way. The risk calculus for melee is a little bit more complex because of Inferno. So with Inferno, the way it works is it doubles its damage every 2 ticks. So it's an 8-second dot, basically, around him. And it goes 500, 500, 1,000, 1,000, 2,000, 2,000, 4,000, 4,000. So those first 4 ticks have a cumulative damage of 3,000. And if you took one more tick, that would be a cumulative damage of 5,000. So the first 4 ticks, I would say, are easily tankable. That's basically a Living Bomb exploding on you. If you went to 5 ticks, you could maybe tank that too. Anything beyond that, you're starting to get serious diminishing returns. You're going to 7,000 cumulative damage. You might survive that. We have some warriors here who I know later on have there's a warrior with 7.4k HP and he's not even a tank, right? They're running Titans and shit. There's a rogue here with 6.6k, okay? It's pretty ridiculous how aggressive you can get on this fight. Now, I typically recommend running out of Inferno quickly just to retain the GFPP. But like for the last Inferno, you can greed it a bit. So the heuristic I would develop as a melee here is, okay, I can stay in until I see the first 1,000 damage tick. That happens at 3 seconds. And then I can get out. I'll take another 1,000 damage tick. That'll bring my total damage to 3,000. And even if I'm a little slow, I take another tick and I take like 5,000 damage. That's acceptable. That's fine. I'm happy with that. So that's the risk calculus. That's the lose conditions. That's how I'm going to die. Now, obviously, that willingness to tank Inferno will also differ if people are being retarded with the bomb. If people are being retarded with the bomb, let's say the Inferno starts, someone has the bomb, they don't even notice, they move out of Inferno with me, and they just nuke me for 3k. Well, I'm just not going to play aggressive around the Inferno next time, right? So I have to, adjust on the fly sometimes and chalk that up. Maybe I'll even pop like a mid. Actually, I'm probably going. I could even pop like a mid-fight GFPP. I mean, why not? That level of safety with hardcore. Maybe if someone makes like catastrophic fuck-ups, I'll have to worry about that. So, because you don't really know this fight and you don't develop that heuristic around Inferno, a lot of melee players roached out and didn't push their limits here. So, a lot of them just like refused to take ticks. And then there were other ones that were honestly a little too aggressive and took like crazy ticks to commit to the kill here. But, if everybody committed to I can stay in for 3 seconds, and when I see that tick, get the fuck out. If everyone committed to that, this boss would be dead. 100%. 100%. The call wasn't like incorrect. If everybody followed the call would result in like a dead boss. So, yeah. The other thing that's really critical that I really want to touch on is the Ignite mana. The Ignite mana was everywhere, boys. And this is just like the most egregious lack of fight knowledge, in my opinion. Like developing these heuristics and developing these ways to like think about the fight and why you don't need to be like scared as much as you are, is not as important as the fact that the priests simply aren't dispelling people. There are mages here. This is Nathan. This is the end of the fight. A little bit before this, he just repositioned. I'm going to turn off the fucking volume here. He just repositioned. Right now, he should be winding up a Frostbolt to finish off this fucking boss right now. But he can't. So what does he do? He wands. He wands immediately. And he's doing that because he has no fucking mana. The only mage that has any fucking mana is ZQ. And ZQ has mana because we can see that he ice blocked off the debuff. The debuff simply wasn't getting dispelled. There's a priest here. The only people in this raid who can dispel a priest. There are no paladins. They have shamans. They're horde only. Okay? There's a priest right here with Ignite mana on him. And he has 0 mana. He can't dispel his own Ignite mana. That's how pathetic it is. Right? This is how badly we fucked things up. And this is just sad, man. Because there's so many casts or abilities that could have been committed into this boss to kill it that didn't come out because there was no mana. So the way you deal with this is it's pretty simple. You got these resto shamans. You got like maybe this one token druid, Shangles. Get them to focus on healing people. And the number one priority for these 6 priests is dispelling 24 Ignite manas on the rest of the raid. It's that simple. We've got completely resto shamans. We've got 5 resto shamans completely tapped. We got Taktur over here with fuck all mana. Maybe he's got like a chain heal in him. And yeah, it's just a disaster. We've got completely warlocks. completely mages, completely hunters. Like, they can't cast their abilities either. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is just a severe lack of fight knowledge. Like, developing like the heuristics to play aggressively I just talked about, that's like higher level knowledge, where it's like you have to make a more like thinking brain play when you actually think about the mechanics. This is just like, there's a debuff, it's really important we dispel this debuff. Like, this is just like very binary, very simple, like safe play that everybody should be making. So yeah, 6 priests should be committing to the dispel magic. This should be done in 4 global cooldowns, because there are 24 people to dispel that have mana anyway. And, you know, that should be that. Should take 4.5, 6 seconds. Something like that. Right? I don't know. That's pretty egregious. But yeah, I just... The thing is, right, they weren't empowered with the knowledge to make the critical play they had to. I mean, you've got ZQ. ZQ is not a bad player. ZQ is an incredibly strong player. But the thing is, Tyler gets on his ass for blinking this living bomb here. This idiot gets living bomb at the end and he runs towards the whole raid. This guy, instead of running to the left. But he's got 6.8k HP and a GFPP running. Is 3200 damage. He can tank this 100%. But people see big scary ability and they scatter. They scatter like fucking rats. Even though every single person here pretty much could tank this. The only people who can't tank this living bomb are the people running out of the Inferno. So it's very unfortunate that that this idiot ran into here, because the actual living bomb itself wasn't that threatening, but the psychological like conflict that this caused, right? It stopped people from making the correct play, because it complicated things, right? It made things harder than they had to be to execute, right? You just needed to have the balls to follow through. I mean, ZQ sees this. He's even got an ice barrier up. So he's even got another absorb on top of 6.8k HP and a GFPP, which is insane. But yeah, he blinks the fuck out. Like, why are we... Who cares, dude? Just commit, right? You don't need to do this. You know what I mean? It's ZQ's a strong player. He's not an idiot. But, you know, when you're not, like, confident about your lose conditions, this is like a mage, you know, if he was playing PvP, because he plays a lot of PvP, this is like him. He wouldn't make this mistake in PvP. He would be like, I'm full health, I can tank this whatever the fuck, to commit to this go and kill this player. Right? This is not threatening enough. This will not do enough damage for me to worry about it. I'm going to commit to this go hard. Right? And, that's the sort of risk calculus that he could apply to a PvP situation, and often does, because he's so intimately familiar. But here he's demonstrating a bit of a lack of knowledge, because he's respecting the living bomb too much, right? So people aren't going to follow through on the ballsy plan. And, everybody knows this guy with the living bomb is a bozo. I don't need to break down why he's being a fucking bozo. And yes, Tyler did bring the boss too close, and there were, like, range getting in Inferno. But, like, this is not a big deal. The thing is, right, you don't need the most optimal strategy possible. You don't need the most optimal strategy possible to win. I've seen some ridiculously suboptimal Razorgore strategies be very effective, right? I've seen Razorgore done like 8 different ways over the various private servers I've done. And as long as everyone's like committed to it and following through on it, and follows the fucking raid leader's calls, it's probably going to work out. The only reason it didn't work out is because it's so uncoordinated and there's such a critical lack of fight knowledge. Like the Ignite Mana thing, to me, is probably the most egregious error. That just should not happen. That's just such a very, very simple check, right? Zikri was the only one, I think, the only mage who had the wherewithal, the presence of mind. Presence of mind isn't just a mage talent, it's an actual real ability to ice block off this debuff. Ice block off this debuff. So he had enough mana to finish the fight. But he just couldn't commit to the actual damage he needed to do at this critical juncture. And it's tragic, man. It sucks. But yeah, so get intimately familiar. Understand your losing conditions. Understand the fight. Understand what you need to be doing. What is my action economy going to be spent on this fight? As a priest, I'm not spending much action economy on this fight doing anything other than dispelling as soon as that debuff goes out, right? If I'm ranged, I'm pumping damage into the boss. Even if there's a living bomb on me, I'm still probably pumping damage into the boss, right? As melee, I'm getting out of the Inferno and I'm going right back in. And if it's the final Inferno, I'm probably tanking a few ticks. It's not a big deal. You know, these are like the limits you have to understand in order to make the play when you're under pressure, when the convenience store is on fire and they're trying to hold you at gunpoint to get what's in the till. You need to know these things, or you're not going to do what you need to do.